This video gives you a short history of the educational world in which the logical essay developed, and will help you see how well it relates to your technical skills. We engineers like to dig in and figure out how things work. In the physical world, we can use the process of scientific investigation to discover the nature of many things. When it comes to something like the logical essay, we discover its nature more deeply by digging into its history. Specifically, this means looking into the history of the liberal arts. This means going back to the times of the Greeks and the Romans. During the Greek and Roman eras, education fell into two categories: occupational training and liberal arts. The slaves and lower classes trained in an occupation. This involved learning some standard trades so they could do the same job day in and day out. This education taught them a specific trade, but did not teach them how to interrelate things, or to do what we call critical thinking. In that era, occupational training required less mental discipline than, and was considered subordinate to, the liberal arts. The Greeks and the Romans developed the liberal arts curriculum to teach students not just a skill, but how to master the process of learning. This enabled the students to self-educate. Those societies taught this curriculum to the ruling classes and free men, called the liberi. Unlike slaves, free men were expected to own the consequences of their decisions. These ruling classes were diplomats, military leaders, nobles, and even politicians. They often had to think through new and difficult problems, where an error in judgment could be costly. The ability to self-educate gave them the ability to work through these unique problems. By the Middle Ages, the liberal arts developed into 7 disciplines, known as the 7 liberal arts, and were used in higher education all over Europe. The 7 liberal arts were divided into the trivium, which made up the lower 3, and the quadrivium, which encompassed the upper 4. The trivium was composed of grammar, logic, which is often synonymous with dialectic, and rhetoric. They were the lower of the 7 liberal arts in that they were foundational to the quadrivium, not inferior to them. They made up the core around which the quadrivium was built, as illustrated in this figure. The trivium laid the groundwork for a person's ability to self-educate by developing the process by which that person learned. The quadrivium was composed of arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, and music. At this level of learning, all 3 parts of the trivium were applied to each of the 4 specialty areas within the quadrivium. This took the skills the student first learned in the trivium and developed them further by using the senses to force the mind to work through difficult problems. You can find a vivid word picture for how this works in Plato's Republic.